Welcome to the VA Fee Appraiser Training Series, Minimum Property Requirements, MPRs. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Loan Guarantee Service. Loan Guarantee Service, a key to homeownership for those who served. Welcome to the Minimum Property Requirements course. This course provides an in-depth review of VA's minimum property requirements, commonly referred to as MPRs. At the end of this course, and given access to VA reference material, you will be able to successfully 1. Illustrate the purpose of VA's minimum property requirements, MPRs. 2. Define VA's requirements to address common MPR deficiencies and conditions. 3. Outline MPR procedures. 4. Explain the workflow for completing a repair inspection and identify the required components of a repair inspection report. Let's get started. The MPRs course comprises 3 lessons: MPRs, common MPR deficiencies and conditions, and MPR procedures. To ensure an active learning experience, we will present knowledge checks throughout the lessons. Let's begin. In the first lesson, we will cover the purpose and scope of VA's MPRs. VA has established MPRs to protect the interests of veterans, lenders, servicers, and VA. VA's MPRs are described in the Lender's Handbook, Chapter 12, MPRs. Properties must meet these requirements prior to guarantee of the loan by VA. The requirement to repair MPR deficiencies applies to origination appraisals only, which include purchase and refinance appraisals. MPRs help ensure that the property is safe, structurally sound, and sanitary. The requirement that a property must meet MPRs for a home loan to be guaranteed by VA is codified in VA regulations at 38 CFR 36.4521. It states, "No loan for the purchase or construction of residential property shall be made unless such property complies or conforms with those standards of planning, construction, and general acceptability applicable thereto, which have been prescribed by the Secretary." VA's MPRs are published in Chapter 12 of the Lender's Handbook. Scan the QR code to open the Lender's Handbook. Appraisers are advised to regularly review the over 40 MPRs described in the Lender's Handbook, Chapter 12. In addition to identifying deficiencies and requiring repairs, some MPRs require the appraiser's commentary in the report. For some MPRs, the only requirement is for the appraiser to notate the condition in the report and/or comment on the effect on marketability. Altogether, these requirements help ensure that the property is safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. These are the key MPR categories and their related MPRs per Chapter 12 of the Lender's Handbook. Living conditions, such as space requirements, water supply and sanitary facilities, utilities, and heating. Safety requirements related to hazards and lead-based paint. Site requirements related to access, encroachments, drainage, and topography. Structural requirements for defective conditions, wood-destroying insects, fungus or dry rot, roof covering, attics, crawl spaces, basements, swimming pools, and burglar bars. Legal requirements for a single marketable real estate entity, non-residential use, zoning, local housing, or planning authority code enforcement. Additional categories include mechanical systems, leased mechanical systems, and alternative energy equipment. Environmental requirements, for example, potential environmental problems, stationary storage tanks, mineral, oil, and gas reservations or leases, high-voltage electric transmission lines, high-pressure gas and liquid petroleum pipelines. Location-related requirements such as radon gas, geological or soil instability, subsidence and sinkholes, special flood hazard areas, coastal barrier resources system, lava flow hazard areas, and properties near airports. In property type-related requirements, for example, manufactured homes classified as real estate and modular homes. Additional requirements may apply that pertain only to properties within a particular state or county. Local requirements are published on the VA Home Loans webpage. Scan the QR code to open the link to local requirements. The appraiser may be required to list, when applicable, other local requirements as conditions on appraisal reports. Knowledge check 1. Minimum property requirements, MPRs, help ensure the property is A. In perfect condition. B. Safe, sellable, and structurally sound. C. Safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. D. Free of all potential defects. The correct answer is C. MPRs help ensure the property is safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. Knowledge check 2. Where are minimum property requirements published? A. Gov Delivery News and Announcements. B. The Lender's Handbook. C. LGY Hub. D. VA Circulars. The correct answer is B. VA's minimum property requirements are published in Chapter 12 of the Lender's Handbook. In the second lesson, we will cover common property deficiencies that must be repaired. Please keep in mind that this training is based on current VA policy. Be sure to revisit the Lender's Handbook and VA circulars often to check for updates to policy. Common deficient conditions are deteriorated paint surfaces, wood-destroying insects, fungus, dry rot, and substantially unsafe hazards. The year the dwelling and/or improvements were built determines the scope of the repair of deteriorated paint conditions. Repair is required when the dwelling and/or improvements were built in 1978 or later, with deteriorated paint surfaces on the exterior that exposes the subsurface to the elements, or the dwelling and/or improvements were built before 1978, with deteriorated paint surfaces on the exterior and/or interior. The presence of lead-based paint must be presumed. The appraiser should clearly identify the location of any defective paint and require remediation. The completion of all repairs involving deteriorated lead-based paint must be certified by the VA-assigned appraiser. Please note that deteriorated lead-based paint must receive adequate treatment. The surface must be thoroughly cleaned, scraped, and repainted. Appraisers should report any evidence of wood-destroying insect infestation, fungus growth, or dry rot. Prepare the appraisal subject to a wood-destroying insect inspection if any infestation or damage is apparent, and all damage must be repaired. The Lender's Handbook defines hazards as conditions which may adversely affect the health and safety of its occupants, structural soundness of the dwelling and other improvements, or impair the customary use and enjoyment of the property by the occupants. The appraiser must notify the lender promptly when a hazard is identified so that the eligibility of the property may be addressed and, depending on the nature of the hazard, to provide as much time as possible to resolve the situation. Conditions which impair the safety, sanitation, or structural soundness of the dwelling will cause the property to be unacceptable until the defects or conditions have been remedied and the probability of further damage eliminated. The integrity of the envelope of the structure must not be compromised. Origination appraisals must be prepared subject to the repair of any defective conditions, with the contributory value of the completed repair included in the value. Examples of defective conditions include exposed electrical wires, extreme safety issues that may cause harm, defective construction, poor workmanship, evidence of continuing settlement, excessive dampness, leakage, decay, and termites. Some MPRs establish requirements for the appraiser's commentary in the report without the requirement for repairs. Here are a few examples of common conditions in such requirements. Single marketable real estate entity. Multiple parcels are acceptable to VA if all parcels are contiguous and legally marketable as a single real estate entity. UAD specification should be followed by listing all parcel numbers on the report, which is the subject of your valuation. If the property includes more than one parcel, the appraiser must prepare the report subject to placing all of the parcels on one deed. Legal, non-conforming use, commonly referred to as grandfathered use. If the property does not comply with current zoning ordinances but is accepted by the local authority, the appraiser must describe the property as legal non-conforming and comment on the property's marketability and any adverse effect this classification may have on value. The appraiser must also state whether the dwelling may be legally rebuilt if destroyed. Continuing with common conditions and requirements. Encroachments. The appraiser must report any apparent encroachments of the subject's dwelling, garage, or other improvements onto an adjacent property, right-of-way, utility easement, or building restriction line, and any apparent encroachments of a neighboring dwelling, garage, or other improvements onto the subject property. High-voltage electric transmission lines or high-pressure gas and liquid petroleum pipelines. Comment in the appraisal if the property is within 100 feet of the nearest boundary of related easements. External or functional obsolescence. Any effect that an external or functional obsolescence issue has on the property should be adequately addressed and accounted for in the valuation. Examples of external obsolescence. The property is nearby high-voltage electric transmission lines or high-pressure gas and liquid petroleum pipelines. If any part of the main residential structure is located within the easement, the property would be ineligible. The property is adjacent to or in proximity of commercial, industrial, or multifamily properties. The property is abutting major thoroughfares. Examples of functional obsolescence are bedroom only accessible by passing through another room, a 5-bedroom home with only one bathroom, leased equipment. Leased equipment or systems are not to be included in the estimated market value. However, those items should be identified in the report. Appraisers should consider any detrimental effect on the value of the property should the lessor remove the leased items. Please note some leases may encumber the title. Swimming pools. Unless there is evidence to the contrary, complete the appraisal under the assumption that the pool and its equipment are in good working order or can be repaired at minimal cost. If there is evidence of needed repairs, the appraisal report should reflect the recommended repairs. Knowledge check 3. Consider this scenario. The appraiser observed a detached garage with peeling paint exposing the subsurface to the elements. The property was built in 2000. How should the appraiser proceed? A. Prepare the appraisal subject to removal of the detached garage. B. Prepare the appraisal subject to the repair of the peeling paint on the detached garage and include photos to support. C. Prepare the appraisal as is and include the detached garage in the valuation. D. None of the above. The correct answer is B. Prepare the appraisal subject to the repair of the peeling paint on the detached garage and include photos to support. Knowledge check 4. Consider this scenario. The appraiser reported the property's zoning compliance is legal non-conforming grandfathered use. What additional information is the appraiser required to report? Select all that apply. A. Comment on the property's marketability and any adverse effect on value. B. Statement as to whether the dwelling may be legally rebuilt if destroyed. C. The year the zoning ordinance or amendment was enacted. D. Recommended repairs that would make zoning compliance legal. The correct answer is A and B. If a property's zoning classification is legal, non-conforming, the appraiser must comment on the property's marketability and any adverse effect on value, and state whether the dwelling may be legally rebuilt if destroyed. In this final lesson, we will discuss MPR procedures and repair inspections. The fee appraiser assigned by VA must perform the property visit. A trainee may accompany the appraiser during the property visit. An exception occurs on Assisted Appraisal Processing Program or AAPP cases, which do not require the fee appraiser to complete a visit. More information on AAPP requirements will be provided later in this training series. During the visit, the appraiser does not perform operational checks of systems or appliances. Utilities do not need to be turned on. The appraiser is not required to climb onto the roof or into the attic and/or crawl space. The appraiser is not required to move personal items that may hinder visibility. The appraiser is not a building inspector. Continuing with MPR procedures. If the appraiser identified MPR deficiencies, the appraiser must prepare origination appraisals, purchase or refinance, subject to the following repairs, and include the contributory value of the completed repairs in the estimated market value. The appraisal report must contain an itemized list of any observed MPR repairs and photographs of the MPR repair items. The appraiser must not prepare appraisals subject to inspections. The appraiser must recommend repairs, not inspections, for any conditions that do not appear to meet MPRs. An exception for a wood-destroying insect, WDI, inspection exists if infestation or damage is observed. The appraiser will include required commentary in the report if applicable. Final considerations regarding MPR procedures. The appraiser should not recommend repairs of cosmetic items, items involving minor deferred maintenance or normal wear and tear, or items that are inconsequential in relation to the overall condition of the property. Instead, the appraiser should consider these items in the overall condition rating when estimating the market value of the property. Detached improvements on the site may be included in value if the improvement meets VA's MPRs. If the improvement presents a health or safety hazard, the appraisal must be completed subject to removal or repair of the improvement. Requests from the veteran to waive MPR repairs should be directed toward the VA. VA will consider waiving MPR repairs after the NOV has been issued and if certain conditions are met. When required on the NOV, repair inspections are completed by the appraiser for repairs, alterations, or improvements on existing properties and contractual obligations on new construction properties. The lender will notify the assigned appraiser directly to request a repair inspection. While lenders have the option to certify repairs for existing or new construction properties, any repairs involving lead-based paint must be inspected by a VA appraiser. The report may be prepared on Fannie Mae Form 1004D, Freddie Mac Form 442, Part B, or the appraiser's letterhead. The report must list the items on the NOV, certify that quality materials were used, certify that items were completed in a satisfactory manner, identify any non-compliant items, include photos of all items, include an invoice, be signed by the appraiser, and the appraiser must upload the report in PDF format into LGY Hub. Select the Repair Inspection Report option in Correspondence History. Knowledge. Check 5. Appraisers are encouraged to prepare reports subject to the following required inspection. True or false? A. True. B. False. The correct answer is B. False. The appraiser must not prepare appraisals subject to inspections. The appraiser must recommend repairs, not inspections, for any conditions that do not appear to meet MPRs. Exception for wood-destroying insect inspection if infestation or damage is observed. Knowledge. Check 6. Consider this scenario. During her property visit for an origination appraisal, the appraiser observed dry rot in the wooden guardrails and posts of a balcony. How should this condition be addressed in the appraisal report? A. Prepare appraisal, subject to the following repairs and subject to the following required inspection: wood, destroying insect inspection, and repair of dry rot damage observed on balcony guardrails and posts. B. Prepare appraisal, subject to the following required inspection: wood destroying insect inspection. C. Prepare appraisal as is. D. Prepare appraisal, subject to the following repairs: repair of dry rot damage observed on balcony guardrails and posts. The correct answer is A. The appraiser must report any evidence of wood-destroying insect infestation, fungus growth, or dry rot. Prepare the appraisal subject to a wood-destroying insect inspection if any infestation or damage is apparent, and all damage must be repaired. Photos of all MPR repairs must be included in the report. Congratulations! You have completed the Minimum Property Requirements course. You learned VA's MPRs help ensure the property is safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. MPRs are discussed in detail in Chapter 12 of the Lender's Handbook. There are over 40 MPRs. Some MPRs require repair if the appraiser observes a deficiency. Some MPRs only require the appraiser's commentary in the report. When MPR deficiencies are observed, the appraiser must prepare the appraisal subject to the following repairs and include an itemized list of MPR repairs and photos to support. Repair inspections may be completed on the appraiser's letterhead or using Fannie Mae Form 1004D. The inspection report must include photos of all items. Upload the report with invoice in PDF format to LGY Hub. As an appraiser on the VA fee panel, it's crucial to be familiar with the resources at your disposal to effectively navigate VA appraisal standards and expectations. Let's review the key VA appraisal resources. The VA Lender's Handbook contains comprehensive guidelines on the VA appraisal process. VA circulars communicate updates or changes to the VA Home Loan Program. VA appraisal fee schedules and timeliness requirements establish the allowable appraisal fees and the number of days allowed for completion. Gov Delivery is a service for which you can subscribe to receive email updates on VA home loan topics. LGY Hub is the online entry point to access VA loan guarantee applications like the Appraiser Workspace. These resources are available from the VA Home Loans website located at www.benefits.va.gov/homeloans. When additional assistance is needed, contact VA through the ServiceNow portal. Appraisers may also call Loan Guarantee Service at 877-827-3702 Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.